It's being streamed on Facebook too. So yeah, it's being streamed on Zoom.
Michael, Mike. Hey, let him holler. Let him holler. Come on back. Hey. Watch your legs.
How's everything?
All right, Dr. Garvey.
Who? No.
Dr. Garvey. Come on, sir. We're waiting on you to get started. How you doing, sir?
Okay, good.
Good. We're gonna get you ready.
All right. Hi. Good.
That's Sister Awesome. With ADACI, we're co-moderators. You gotta get about yourself. We got a little stuff we're gonna do before we
Okay.
How you doing, Dr. Garvey?
trying to wait for Shock to come back. I go. I go. So we are going to start very shortly. We're just waiting on Brother Shaka to come in and Winter Park and Dr. Garvey here. We're going to start with libation. So we want to thank all of you all for being on time. 3 o'clock. We're a little after 3, but we're going to promise you that it'll be well worth your attendance. We're so happy that you're here. So I'm going to do a little drum thing while we're waiting on him to come in, and then we're going to do libation. And then we're going to get started. The program tonight is being hosted by the African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration Institute and the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League Rehabilitating Committee 2020. We will explain those entities to you in depth, but we are all about all positive African people coming together as one. Abaragane. No, I thought I was going to speak in English folk tongue, huh? Anyway, without any further ado, I want to bring to you a dear friend of mine since junior high school. And that's a little ways back here in Banneker City. But she will tell you her official name, recent name. I call her Church Mouse Mona Cherie. But she will explain to you a little more clarity about her African name that's been recently called. Mona.
Peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings.
How are you?
Well.
How are you? Oh, okay. I thought the community was here somewhere. I was born Mona Cherie Pollard, various nicknames. I'm from DC, 3rd of 5 generations. I've been in the culture for a long time. My dad was in Afro-Cuban culture, went on up to New York to dive deep into African culture, where he transitioned. But we're all from here, and this evening, as we get started, I need to ask permission from the elders to speak. May I, elders, continue to speak? Thank you. And so my role today with the ADACI sisters is to pour libations, to bring in the ancestral spirit, the ancestral energy. And I'm going to need your help to do it. So before I get started, a little bit more about me, other than the educational component, career component, my spiritual component is diverse, but for the last 20, 30 or so years, I've been in the culture. I am an Akan priestess trained in the tenets of Ghanaian culture, spirituality, and traditional medicines. Today, I'm going to do libations. Like I said, you'll hear me speak in Tree for some of the libations or prayers. And so what it is a mind frame, a mindset, and bringing your energy focus to this front, and also bringing the energy of your positive ancestors and those ancestors that have poured in positively to you. There will come a time in the libations where I will ask you to call your ancestors, and they can be personal, national, or global. Ashe? Ashe. Okay. I'm going. Hold on. Can everyone hear me if I
got you, Mike. I got you.
You got me?
I got you.
All right, I'm going to start off with saying, I'll go, and your response will be, May. In other words, do I have your attention? I'll go. Amen. I'll go. Amen. I'll go. Amen. Canare, Aboshakama, Canare, Sasia Bunia, Canare, and Mad Taxi and Tia Naya Samon Tomato. The culture. Odumakuma, Sasia, Abukuna, Makamano. Yapo, credit card, call me a star, Sasia, star, now the 30 babies I know. Now the 8 years down, now the Copian down, now the Tingray is down, now the Coco under Roma, now the Suya, now the Tupama, now the Suabinan, now the Suko Training, now the Suatano, baby Sano, now the Suo Boca Train, now the Suo Coasting, now the Suo Billy, Doto, those see the baby Sano, now the phone for the pound from the stop, Safianza, now the 30 baby Sano, I was doing the rest of no more voodoo. Merba for letting vote to the baby man, baby Sano. Martha to Marco, no, baby Sano. Martha to Marco, no, baby Sano. Madonna to this, so they took it to Marco and stop. I'm going to better to nail your voice to Marco and stop. Look at that tuna to Marco and stop. Watch the DC to Marco and stop. Virginia to Marco and stop. Ghana to Marco and stop. Trinidad Tobago to Marco and stop. I got you to Marco and stop. Jimbo to Nini Quasto, Abusu. What am I about? Tasi Abusu, Mr. Marco, no. We take this time to welcome you. We take this time to honor our ancestors. We take this time and this moment in time for us to call in the ancestors near and dear and that they're fighting at the forefront and who so that we stand for. So at this time, you call your ancestors and say, Ashe, 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 We take this time to honor you. We take the time that your spirit, your energy, your love, your compassion is here. It's around us. We ask that all of our presenters, we ask that all of our participants, we ask that all of our listeners, the young and the old and all in between, be protected, be guided, be instructed, and be blessed beyond measure in abundance with overstanding, understanding, and understanding, so that we have the audacity to go out and be a greater people than the ones who came before us, because we're carrying on the legacy. Marcus Garvey, Amy Jocks Garvey, and all of the others. Yembo Sun Yananina Kwaso. That means like health, wealth, and wisdom to all of us. Ashe, 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 Ashe.
We play the drum so our ancestors can really hear us. There's more ancestors than us. Y'all know that, right? That's why I was doing like that, because I mean, we got so many names. We go back millions of years. So it's for real, because we believe in life to life. So without any further ado, my dear sister Asa is going to explain to you all what the African Diasporal Ancestral Commemoration Institute is all about, and also what this altar really represents that they put together. They've done so many altars, so many places, serious business. Mama, Asa.
Greetings, family.
Greetings.
How's everyone?
Good.
So happy and honored to be here. Dr. Garvey, thank you so much for being here and being in our presence. We appreciate you. Baba Mosi, Baba Senghor, Baba Zama. Thank you all for being here, and we are excited to be a part of this program today. ADACI, like Baba Zama, Baba Senghor just said, is the African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration Institute. And I'd like for all of you who have your cell phones and your pens, go ahead and write down our website so you can get more information, because I'm not going to be, there's so much more that you can learn from us that's on our website, which is www.adaciancestors.org. adaciancestors.org. ADACI. It stands for the African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration Institute. adaciancestors.org. ADACI was founded in Washington, D.C. in 1992 by a group of dynamic women who decided that there needed to be an institutionalized commemoration of the ancestors. And we do that through many ways. We do that through programming like this that we have done for many years. ADACI is over 30 years old. And one of our founding advisors of ADACI is Dr. John Henry Clark. And since Dr. John Henry Clark was around, and since then, ADACI continues to collaborate with organizations like the Sankofa, where we are today, this wonderful house, this wonderful sacred space, like the UNIA, like several organizations who are here to uplift, empower, educate, and make bold our people, and make sure that we're continuing the legacy of our ancestors, and that our children and young people know the shoulders on which they stand. So again, please check out our website for more information about who we are and what we do. And thank you for all of you who have been ADACI supporters over the years. We honor you and we appreciate you. We are a nonprofit, and so all of the work that we do is based through the contributions that you all have given us throughout the years. So this altar that we have, ADACI, aside from all the other things that we're known for, we're mainly known for being the altar sisters. And so you will have seen that we create these sacred spaces where we bring in and house the space for our ancestors, and we honor them with these spaces. This altar today, in a celebration and in honor of Marcus Messiah Garvey, the Honorable, and Amy Jocks Garvey. You see, of course, the red, black, and green represented. You see their pictures on here. You see African symbols like the drum. Baba Senghor talked about the drum. We know that the drum is our heartbeat. And then there are other symbols on here, very strong symbols like the Sankofa bird, which we know Sankofa is to look back into our history and take those things that we need to come into our present and go move forward into our future. And so we have one of Dr. Garvey's books, and I think that this is Dr. Julius Garvey's book, the one that we're here to talk about and to discuss and to have a book signing. So if you haven't gotten your book yet, make sure you get a copy. On all ancestral altars, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is we bring sweetness and fruit and food to our ancestors. And so you'll see the fruit display here. There are also many symbols. One of the symbols that we have here is the ADACI symbol. Our symbol is discussed in full on our website, but our symbol, it was designed by Sister Mary Maduki, and she is one of our wonderful artists in the community. And you see the symbol down at the ADACI represents the ADACI symbol represents the ship and the water, the hands holding us up as a people. We also have, again, on this particular altar, several books. Flowers, always have flowers, again, fragrant, food. And so this is just one representation of an ancestral altar. And we certainly encourage you to have your own. There's some information on the ADACI page about how you can set up your own ancestral altar. And if you have any more information that you'd like to know, please contact us. And so thank you again, Baba Senghor. We really appreciate you all being here with us, both present and online, and we look forward to a dynamic program.
Thank you. Let's hear it for ADACI and Sister Azza. So Mama Tendai, who could not be with us today, she's down in the Carolinas. She's also with ADACI. She helped pull all of this together. We want to recognize her. She was on the flyer. Sister Yuri did not want me to call on her, but I want her to stand up anyway. Sister Yuri, stand up. Very key component, founder of ADACI. And ADACI is made up of quite a few sisters, but also brothers in support of ADACI. Because we believe, like I said, in life to life, but we also believe in balance. We don't just wear the arms. We believe that African women rule the world. And I want to clarify that, because everybody ain't there yet. If everybody was there, we probably wouldn't be in the condition we're in. RSC 2020, which is Rehabilitating Committee 2020 of the government of the UNIACL, believes that. And we also believe that we have to put structures together for our youth. So I'm going to talk to you a little more about what's happening internationally. But right now, at this moment, I want to recognize a couple of members of 330, particularly the president, who also serves on the parent body, Baba Mosi Matsamila, who is the president of Division 330 and a long-standing Council of Elder member of Washington, D.C., Banneker City, and a Minister of Information with the UNIACL RSC 2020.
Thank you, Bob Senghor, for that introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, to be honoring our good brother, Dr. Julius Garvey, who's here as evidence of the ancestral work of Marcus Garvey. He has done some work on his father's and his mother's book, The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. He's updated some things, and he's here today to discuss it with us. But let me tell you something excuse me, about me and the Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division, number 330, UNIACL RC 2020, RC meaning, as Baba Senghor said, Rehabilitating Committee. I've been a member 30 plus years of the Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division. And it's been an education for me. It wasn't easy getting in because I was doing a business, but I, on the side, had to, discard certain things about not getting involved, and did get involved. It's been 30 plus years. We're working on keeping the people educated, or I should say, keeping the mindset African. We say Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. A lot of people don't like the word Negro, but the word Negro is there for a purpose. It's the founding name, and we have not done anything to remove it because it's a legacy. And I will tell you something else about legacy. The Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division 330 that is operating as RC 2020 or with RC 2020 is the legacy division here in Washington, D.C. I'd also like to thank ADACI for partnering with us to have Dr. Garvey here as our guest and having the book signing. It's a real pleasure. You know, it's also historic as far as I'm concerned. Because of course, we have a living legacy of the history of Marcus Garvey and the UNIA ACL. We are in a building that has history here in Washington, D.C. I will say it's an iconic edifice of African thought and work. This Sankofa video and books, we all love it. We love coming here. Without it, some of us may not know what to do with ourselves. It's a beautiful place. And I would like to give thanks for the fact that ADACI has partnered with us and has, through being here as I think a resident. You're a resident of Sankofa that facilitated us having this event here today. I thank you, ADACI. I thank you, Sankofa Books. I thank you, Dr. Garvey, and I thank everyone else here for being here today so we can celebrate Dr. Garvey's work. Putting that forward, his book. And please get that book. We do have, I think we have enough here for everybody so that he can sign it. That also will be historical for you. So thank you very much. We'll continue.
All right, brothers and sisters, we're going to move right along, but I want to bring my sister Isaac back up because, you know, word sound power is important. And while we're in a very powerful venue, as Baba Musa was saying, you look around you, there's tons of ancestors' words, tons of current people's words all around you. But it's serious, y'all. We got work to do because it's not just about what you say, it's about what you do. And we're about doing. It's not about me, he, or she, but we're going to share some poetry with you all, and then we're going to get on with the program. I know many of y'all came to hear Dr. Garvey, but I want to tell you, Dr. Garvey, as a young brother, has been all around this town in less than 5 days, everywhere. I really appreciate it, and probably left town and came back. That's how serious he is about the legacy and the work. But without any further ado, my dear sister, you need to stand. Oh, oh, and she also is going to, well, you tell them what you want to share.
So I'm honored today. We have a wonderful sister attorney in the community, Sister Nkechi Taifa, and she was scheduled to be here with us today and couldn't make it back from her travels. And so we want to honor her today. She was going to share with you one of her poems, and she's allowing me to share it. And I'm going to try to do it justice because she's so dynamic. And so I'm going to share with you her poem that's located in her book, Shining Legacy, Story Poem for the Young. So Black heroes and heroines forever will be sung. And it was first published in 1983 and was republished in 2021. And the illustration, just like I talked about our dear Sister Mary Maduku, who designed the ADACI symbol, she also did the wonderful illustrations in her book. So again, I'm very honored today to share the poetry of Sister Nkechi Taifa. The mighty Marcus Garvey. The mighty Marcus Garvey. The mighty Marcus Garvey, if you've ever seen, was the proud Black man with the red, black, and green. The mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. Millions of Black folk were on his side. He sailed from Jamaica to New York City. He organized a group in the 1920s. The Universal Negro Improvement Association to millions was a great inspiration. He had the Black Cross nurses that worked so fine, the Black Legionnaires, and the Black Star Line. The Black Star Line was the name of the ships they would sail with, they would trade with Black nations and make many trips. The Black Legionnaires was the army to be. They trained to fight to set Black people free. The mighty Marcus Garvey had big parades. The foundation of our nation was being laid. The mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. Millions of Black folk were on his side. He said African people were a mighty race, but we need once more a mighty land base. Let Africa be our guiding star, and then we'll know freedom won't be far. But some brainwashed Blacks turned up their nose. The racist court system said Garvey has to go. Back to Jamaica, he was finally sent. But when he went, he left us this hint. Look for me in the whirlwind, he said. Look for me in the storm. Look for me all around you, for my spirit will bring freedom to form. The mighty Marcus Garvey, if you have ever seen, was the proud Black man with the red, black, and green. Millions of Black folk were on his side because the mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. She said the mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride. And we know the mighty Marcus Garvey had a lot of pride.
So, brothers and sisters, we're moving right along. And as I said earlier, I've grown up in DC. I wanted my grandchildren to understand how I came more into consciousness and how I continue to strive for more consciousness. Because as I said earlier, it's not about me, he or she, it's about we, collectivity, not individuality. So I'm going to share 2 poems with you that I did back in the days when I found the Garvey movement. And this book is called From Vibe to Spirit and Then to Soul. And it was about 100 poems that I did back when I was coming out of the streets and more into consciousness, you know. But I decided to publish this not long ago because I wanted my children to see that no matter where you are in life, you can do better. You always strive to be better. In fact, we all have a mission. Some of us never find out our mission because we're so busy caught up in material things and other things that we don't find out what we really are called to do. But anyway, I'm going to share this 2 poems real quick. Tree of Life. Wisdom and knowledge and understanding are 3 branches of the mind. What you should think about most of your time. I'm sure it's time to check out your mind, for our lives are on the line. Sweet tree of life, sweet tree of life. You're so fine and divine. Love, peace, and happiness are the roots of the tree, that which makes the soul. You should check yourself before you get old. Relax and release your soul. Free spirit will make you bold before time makes you grow cold. Sweet tree of life, sweet tree of life. Thank you for our immortal souls. Food, clothing, and shelter are the trunk of the tree, that which makes the body. But the racist bird of prey has his claws tied to the trunk, for the vulture cares for nobody. He ate freedom, justice, and equality so that the tree wouldn't bloom. It seems as if the tree is doomed, but the roots will cause the blossoms to bloom, and the stems will shake the vulture to the ground so that the tree of life will get light, and we are rights. Sweet tree of life, sweet tree of life, sweet tree of life. You're so fine and divine. So, you know, moving around DC, people have heard the term Blacktricity. Well, years ago, that poem was gifted to me through the ancestors. It's not mine, because Blacktricity, it wouldn't be no life on the planet if it wasn't for Blacktricity. And I'll tell you why in this poem. Hey, blood, can't you feel the Blacktricity that flows within you and me? It shouldn't be hard for you to see that our people ain't free. Although Blacktricity flows within you and me, still many of our people just can't see and understand the importance of unified frequency. Hey, blood, can't you understand why Blacktricity flows within you and me? We are just the beginning of the Blacktricity tree. We must encourage our people to see that in order for us to be free, we must all unify our Blacktricity. Hey, blood, let's take the first step and start to build a Blacktricity tree. Electricity produces light. Blacktricity produces might. Electricity is used to light bulbs. Blacktricity is used and expressed in love. Electricity is supplied by the nearest plug. Blacktricity can be supplied by a mere hug. Electricity is turned on and off. Blacktricity has been turned down too soft. Electricity travels through wires and humans. However, Blacktricity only travels through all living beings. Now let's get everyone building our Blacktricity frequency. Can't you feel the Blacktricity? It's not about he, she, or me, and certainly not individuality. It's time to rebuild our collective Blacktricity tree, you see. So, real quickly, I want to call a dear sister up, because like we say, African queens rule the world. So I want to call Stephanie up for a quick minute to give y'all a strong infomercial. Yeah, come on up, dear. Come on up.
In the back. Have the young man come down on the side.
Oh, you mean stand over here?
Yeah, come down because they're backing up.
Yeah, you all, there is area over here where you can stand. So if you
Young
can,
man, come down.
you can come and move over here. Come on, Stephanie. Stephanie, come on. Sheila, I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep trying to make you a Stephanie. You know what? I don't know.
Okay. Don't say.
That's why. No. That's why Sheila didn't move. That's why she didn't move. But anyway, this is an infomercial, and it's very important because, as I said, it's not about me, he, or she. It's about we. Dr. Garvey understood that. Not Dr. Garvey is with us. He understands it too. But his father understood. And thanks to Amy Jocks Garvey. Let them know what you're doing.
Paying homage to our ancestors, thank you so much for the opportunity to stand before this amazing young man, the Honorable Dr. Julius Garvey. We are so pleased to have you here, and thank you to my honorable ancestors. And the elder has already given me permission to speak, so I'll just say briefly that in honor of this young man's most honorable mother, the Honorable Amy Euphemia Jacques Garvey, we are planning to do something to honor her legacy as the most significant woman of the 20th century. And we would like to invite you to stay tuned as we develop the reenactment, The Life of Mother Amy Jacques Garvey. And if you want to get a preview of that, there's an amazing article that I wrote about her life, because I'm obsessed with her, on the African magazine. Did you know that there's an African magazine that's published, the first African magazine in the United States? It's called The African Magazine by Sumanu Salifu. And he agreed to publish Mother Amy Jacques Garvey's story for me in 3 parts. And the first part is available. And if you text the word Amy to 202-952-6123, you can get access to that article. And thank you, Baba. We'll keep you informed and let you know more about it as we bring Mother. 202-952-6123. Just text the word Amy and you'll get an insightful article that goes very deeply into her contributions, the challenges she experienced, which I'm sure we're going to hear about some verbally today, and some of the things that she did that many people don't know about, that should know about, so that whenever we speak the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, we recognize that most of anything that we know about her is because of his amazing confidant, wife, political analyst, archivist, author, and even short essay writer and poet, and also, I mean, the woman is incredible. But anyway, we'll talk more about that. Look at Amy Euphemia Jacques Garvey. Do not forget her name, family, because she's coming for you in March 2023. Oh, my name is Sheila Brown. Thank you, Mother. And my name is Sheila Brown, and I'm just obsessed with the Queen. I've been studying her for a few years now. I had a project to do on her, and she's never left my mind ever since then. And just some of the amazing insights. She left us a family guide in this book as well, and in race and racism. But race first. But anyway, we'll talk more about that later. No further ado. Sheila Brown, the number again is 202-952-6123. Just text the word Amy and you'll get access to the article right away. Thank you so much, family.
Okay. Yeah, as Dr. Garvey was saying, y'all, there's room over here on the side. If y'all want to come over on the side, I think they had a little difficulty getting over there. If y'all want to come around the side, you can come around the side. But real quickly, brothers and sisters, I'm going to do this real quick before we bring Dr. Garvey on just to talk to you. I'm happy to tell you all that there's a cleanup campaign taking place right now in the Gambia by our division in Gambia named the Kunta Kinte Division of the RSC 2020 UNIA. But here's the big news. I just want to let y'all know there's a Pan-African library there. And as soon as she saw it, she was like, please get me some of Dr. Garvey's books. And we're going to get them there. But there's a Pan-African library in Gambia. And our division in Lagos is building a Pan-African library. And we're not just talking about a library with books. We talk about videos and all kinds of stuff, a learning institution, because it's very important. Also, I am the international coordinator of the Black Star Action Network International. The president of Sierra Leone, Sister Kenya, the president of Gambia, Sister Anna, the president of Lagos, all are in Basani. And the reason I say this is because I know Dr. Garvey wrote his book primarily so young people could get very clear on the real, authentic Garvey legacy. And that's very important. So just don't buy one book today. If you got children, buy one for your child. Get one for your friend. Because not enough people understand the importance of not just Marcus Garvey, but Amy Jocks Garvey. But we're going to change that. And we're working in Africa. And the reason it's so important for us, that's what Garvey's vision was. For us not just to return to Africa, but to help rebuild the minds of African people and to rebuild on the continent of Africa. So later on, we will talk to you. I'll give you cards so you can get with us. We'll tell you more details because there's a whole lot of institutions we're connected with, just like ADACI. Because there's a lot of people today, unfortunately, during Garvey's time, the UNIA did most of the work in gathering all the millions of people. But now we got a lot of institutions. So there's no reason why we don't close ranks. If you race first. Because we ain't got time to mess around. We race first. We're not saying we anti anybody else, but we race first. Once we got our race where it should be, then we can deal with everybody else. Because we got to deal with everybody. We're not anti. So not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit, said the Lord of hosts, God of the right, our battles fight be with us as your break down the barriers of might. We reverently implore. Stand with us in the triumphs of the struggles of the right and spread confusion, ever order advocates of might, and let them know that might is only selfishness and cannot or not win. Endow us, Lord, with faith and grace and courage to endure the wrongs we suffer pace, and bless us evermore. Amen. Ra. So that's a universal prayer because we really believe in uniting, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Buddhist, whatever you do, it's one God, one aim, one destiny. So we are serious about that. That's why we know African women rule the world. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to my big brother, my elder. And I had the opportunity of working with his brother. So, I got the love coming from both of the sons. But if it were not for Amy Jocks Garvey, I don't know whether the Garveyism would be so clear what you're about to hear would even be happening. Because Marcus committed himself to uplift us. Amy committed herself also to uplift us, but also committed us to make sure that the legacy was here. Not just the sons, but the books. But anyway, without any further ado, Dr. Garvey, Dr. Julius Garvey. And I'm not going to give you a resume. I'm just going to pass it on to him because he's done a whole lot of things. And get the book, and you will see, and you can read and find out some of the things that Dr. Garvey has been about doing all of his life.
Thanks, Brother. And thanks everybody for coming out. And it's indeed a pleasure to be in this space where there's so much of the word. And I would like to thank the sister for the libation that brought the spirit here. And I think that's very important, always to start with the spirit. And I'd just like us to breathe slowly and deeply for a while as we get in touch with our spirits. And our spirits, your spirits, and the spirits of the ancestors, and even those that are unborn. Because from the African perspective, it's all one universe. Spirit is everywhere. Spirit transcends matter, but it also infiltrates matter. And of course, it took Europeans a long time to understand that. Einstein came up with energy equals mc squared, and they figured out that matter was just slow-moving energy. So they absorbed that over time, but then they used that information to develop atomic weapons, nuclear weapons, because then they split the atom to get to the energy. And of course, they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, we knew that, tens of thousands of years before, but we didn't use that information to develop weapons to kill other people. We also knew that consciousness was primary and that you didn't have spirit without consciousness. In terms of spirits, also the second law of thermodynamics, which they figured out, is that, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. Again, we knew that, thousands and thousands of years ago. But of course, when they came from Greece and elsewhere and saw what we understood, but they didn't understand it from the inside, they saw it from the outside in, and they called us animists in a derogatory sense. Of course, we're animists because we understand that energy animates everything. And we know that consciousness goes along with energy. But they didn't understand that. They felt that consciousness was a secondary manifestation of matter. As a matter of fact, in studying the brain, they said that consciousness is an epiphenomenon of the neuronal activity on the brain. But then, the physicists advanced to the point now where they understand not only that energy is primary, but also that consciousness is primary, and wherever energy goes, consciousness goes. And they discovered that, basically at the beginning of the 20th century. But they've not been able to absorb that into their philosophy, because their philosophy is still a philosophy of scientific materialism. That matter is what is important. So it's important to us as a people in terms of our understanding of spirit, because that is primary, spirit, consciousness, and wisdom. And of course, if we look back at Nile Valley civilizations, we call that Amun. as the consciousness that's everywhere. Ra, that is the spirit or the energy that is also everywhere. And Pata, that's the intelligence and information that travels with energy and consciousness. And that is what the universe is made from, and that is what created the universe, and that's what created us. So when the sister was pouring libation, she was linking us, our consciousness, with the consciousness of the ancestors, because sometimes our consciousness becomes fixated on material things in the environment, and we lose that understanding and that relationship with the essential consciousness, which is who we are, the consciousness, energy, and information self that is part of the universe. Of course, nowadays they call it, with the quantum physics, etc. Nowadays they call it the unified field. And they found that consciousness is primary in the unified field. So all of these things that they've been finding out based on materialistic science have led them to the understanding that spirit and consciousness is primary. But they've not been able to absorb that into their philosophy. And that is what they've used to trap us in terms of their understanding, which, as I mentioned, led them to the development of nuclear weapons. Their misunderstanding of consciousness, feeling that consciousness only relates to the events, physical events out there in the environment, in terms of materialism. And that information comes to you through the five senses, and then you have an intelligence of the brain that deals with that. So that is their philosophy, and that is their understanding of humanity, their understanding of life and our relationship with the universe. So that ends up with this individualism, with self versus other, and with the belief that you're separate from the universe and you can conquer nature and extract from nature all the resources that you need and take as much of it for yourself. Again, that's the Eurocentric paradigm. Our paradigm is different. Our paradigm is a spiritual paradigm in terms of understanding Amun, Ra, and Pata, consciousness, energy, and information. And that's what created us, and that's who we are. And consciousness has no boundary. You know that. There's no end to consciousness. It doesn't begin here, it doesn't end there. Energy, as I just mentioned, has no boundary. So we, in terms of the manifestation of consciousness and energy, also have no boundary. We have a physical form in which our consciousness and energy resides. That is our temple, if you will, as such. But our consciousness energy has no boundary, and that's what unites us. And that's why the sister was bringing the ancestors to join us. And that is what could not be broken in the transatlantic voyage and our enslavement. They could beat us physically, they could even enslave the mind, but they could not destroy spirit. And because they could not destroy spirit, spirit will triumph because it's indestructible. So the materialism that we see now how it is in conflict with itself. We see all the problems of the world. The teenage pregnancies, the teenage suicides, the anxiety, the fear. As a physician, all the people that came into my office, and they're over 50 years, they were on at least 5 or 6 different medications, walking with the tripod and this and that and so on, because of the stress and because of the society in which they live. And, only about 5% of the diseases that we have can be traced to genetic origin. The rest of it is lifestyle, the rest of it is environment, the rest of it is the food we eat. So we live in a toxic society that does not understand nature. And is actually poisoning us. And it's the same thing with the economic system. There's an abundance there for all of us, but we have an economic, financial, and social system actually that extracts as much as they can in terms of resources, makes commodities and markets it, but then the wealth is subsumed up to that top 5%, and everybody else is taken advantage of. So obviously that's a system that's not sustainable. I'm saying all this to say that Babylon is really in trouble. I think a lot of us know that. Okay, you see now there are wars upon wars upon wars. World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, Afghanistan, Syria, in North Africa, Libya with Gaddafi and so on, and you can Iraq and so on. You can go on and on. Wars and wars. Now it's Ukraine. They're pushing and drawing fire from Russia. Where is it going to end? Is it going to end in nuclear weapons? You know, you don't create peace by going to war. So, but this is the confrontational system of individualism and competition that is intrinsic part of materialism. So the system has so many flaws, and it has existed for 400, 500 years, but you can see what it has done to the rest of the world. What did it do to the Native American? Destroyed them, genocide. The Australian, genocide, and stealing their continents and so on. What did it do to the African enslavement? You know, more than 60 million displaced one way or another. And then the colonialism, stealing the resources and so on and so forth. And we have the hegemony of Europe and America over the rest of the world. But we're in a transition point now, and definitely we have to be aware of that, because what's coming out of this is a multipolar world, and we have to decide where we are with that. And I just want to say that the paradigm that has to come out of this is a different paradigm from the Eurocentric paradigm, because that, as I just demonstrated in some way, I don't want to go through all the details, but you know the details as well as I do, has failed. It is not sustainable. It's not something that allows human beings to prosper in terms of beneficent relationship with each other, and to have what they need in terms of not just surviving, but prospering as human beings, as full human beings. And that derives from the fact that there's an ignorance of the fullness of the humanity as far as the European is concerned. That goes no further than the physical body with the senses and the brain with the intellect. That's as far as it goes in terms of what they consider to be human. So you end up in terms of what you have is really a human animal, but you don't really have a full human being. We've always been the full human being. We are the first full human beings. We're the first ones that had the consciousness of our humanity fully 200,000 years ago. And that has been demonstrated, not just demonstrated, but it has been written about, and it has been carried down in terms of oral knowledge over time, that, you know, we are spirit, mind, and body. We're not just mind and body. We're spirit, mind, and body. And our spirit tells our mind what to do, because that's the creative element itself. And the mind carries it out and tells our body what to do. So we always have to access spirit in terms of who we are. That's our essence. And again, I refer to the system who brought the ancestral spirits here. We can listen to the ancestral spirits because the ancestral spirits are telling us what to do. We are our ancestors. We stand on their shoulders, so we know we have unfinished work to do. And we are linked with our progeny. So we know that we have to pass on that job to them. And that job is going to be reinstitution, if you will, of African humanism, because that has human beings have to be the center in terms of your society, in terms of your politics, in terms of your economics, in terms of your philosophy and your educational system. At this point in time, humans are marginalized. It's all about turning us, shall we say, into machines. As you know, most of us, if we go to school and you have to learn certain things in the book from page 10 to page 20, and you regurgitate it to the teacher or on a test, and if you remember 90% of it, then you're an A student, and you'll be able to get the job within the system and carry on the system as it has been originated, ever since the days of the feudal system. That's not education. That's brainwashing. Yeah. So that is why the system is the way it is, and it hasn't really progressed. As we can see, from what happened in Memphis recently, the system is still barbaric. And to the extent that it has poisoned us, and we have taken in so much of the poison of the system that we are part of the system and we manifest the same poison. So we have to go back to spirit. That's Sankofa, we have to go back to spirit. Because that's the only thing that's going to save us. Because that's the only thing that's strong enough to fight the materialism that we see today. As my father said, spirituality and science is the only thing that's going to fight the gross materialism that we see today. So each of us has that responsibility to get to know our spirit. It's a process, and it's not necessarily easy because we live in a society that distracts us with all kinds of things. We all live by our cell phones and our TV and all the other apparatuses that keep us connected to events out there. But we need to take time on a daily basis and create a way, a process for us to access our spirit. Because if we access our spirit, then of course, there won't be any problem in terms of our unity. Because again, spirit is one. Spirit has no boundary, as we've said, as consciousness has no boundary. So when you access your spirit, you're accessing my spirit, you're accessing your spirit and your spirit and yours, and we can work together without division. Brother Senghor is talking about all of us working together. And it's the only way we're going to get to Moja, right? Yep. Which is unity. The only way we get to go to Moja if we get to the spirit. And if we only go as deep as the ego, then that's what causes the divisions, okay? Because our identity of ourselves is this mind-body identity. It's not a full consciousness, but we have to get to that full consciousness of who we are, which is a wide, expansive, vast consciousness that links all of us. And again, from the scientific point of view, we can call it the unified field, out of which everything comes, all events comes. It sustains us, it creates us, and we are part of that. So we can access that creativity. Any problem that we have, we can access that creativity. There's no such thing a problem that lasts forever. So we can transform our circumstances when we access that spirit, because again, that spirit is part of the universal spirit. And it's not just spirit. I mentioned energy. What is energy? It's power. So when you access your spirit, you access a power that is tremendous. And you can manifest that. And when you do that, nothing can stop you. And not only can nothing stop you, but you don't have to be afraid in terms of consequences. As my dad said, if you have no confidence in self, you're twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you're won even before you started. Now, how could he say that? He has to be a spiritual person. Because you see, if you don't finish what you want to do in this lifetime, you'll have another lifetime to carry it forward. Okay? Because we believe in reincarnation. We believe the spirits out there waiting to be reborn, etc. We believe that our ancestors were born in us. We'll be reborn in our children and our grandchildren. So there's no such thing as death. So we do not have to fear death. All we have to do is promote life. Okay? And if we can promote life from the spiritual perspective, we'll be able to unite with each other. We'll be able to be kind and loving in terms of each other, and we'll be able to deal with the circumstances, the negative circumstances under which we live, and we'll be able to create our own type of environment, which again I call African humanism. And I think that's the paradigm that the new paradigm that's going to come out of Africa, and that's the new paradigm that the world needs. And of course, the world needs us because we have to show them the way. Because it's impossible for the European to go, 180 degrees about face and say, I've been wrong for 2,000 years and I've harmed the universe, I've destroyed the planet, and global warming, etc., climate change is my problem. We've done that and we're going to change. We're the ones that have to bring about the change. We have to show them what real life is all about in terms of African humanism. So it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.
So we're gonna open up for questions. I know y'all got a lot of questions. And I'm gonna ask the first question. I want Dr. Garvey to explain what drove him to do a continuation of the philosophy and opinions of Garvey, because I think that's important.
And in terms of the book, it's not original in that sense. It's like a précis of volume 1 and 2 of the philosophy and opinions, leaving out certain things and putting certain things from volume 2 and volume 1, etc. And the reason for doing that is that, I want the message to reach the younger generation. So I think the message needs to be focused. There was a different need back in the 20s when my mother collected it, because she needed the word to go out worldwide in that sense, and exactly as it was given, shall we say. But now we need to focus on the transmission to the younger generation. So we've sort of condensed what I think is the most important aspects into 150 pages, which I think many young people might tolerate 150 pages. They're not going to tolerate 400 pages. So that's just the idea behind it, Sengo.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I wanted to share, because a lot of people have asked. Of course, we know the Green Book that your mother first got out, but that was not all, y'all. Dr. Tony Martin also published the Philosophy and Opinions. Robert Hill published the Philosophy and Opinions, and I like to call them not books, I call them weapons, particularly when they say something, weapons of construction, not destruction. But that's a Philosophy and Opinions that Tony Martin did, right? And if you look at my book, you'll see that I don't just read it. We use this to study, and it's very important. A lot of people never seen this one. I don't even know whether Dr. Julius Garvey seen this one. This one came to me by one of the ADACI sisters from the Garvey bookstore out in California. This was done some time ago, but it also gives credit to Amy Jocks Garvey. So I want to make it clear. And this is the one I was talking about earlier that I first got a hold to, and I was in study groups with the Allen History Club, and it's powerful. Like he said, a lot of people are going to run from this that don't read, and I'm talking about and heed what they read, because there's a difference. And then even a brother in Jamaica, McQuell Lawn, even published another one. So there's a need for this, but also, don't forget Dr. Tony Martin. And in 1976, Dr. Tony Martin did his dissertation, but he published it in a book, Race First. Now, this is the republishing of it. Paul Coates is doing a wonderful job of a lot of Tony Martin's works. And I believe, is this the one that, oh no, this is the other one, this one here, that your mother did. I believe you have the introduction in. And Dr. Clark had an introduction in. But Amy Jocks Garvey. Yes, there are many shapes. In fact, you'd be surprised how many books are out on Garvey. Man in the Hat, this and that. But be careful. Be careful, because there's 3 that I highly recommend. The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey by Amy Jocks Garvey, and of course, the new one by Dr. Julius Garvey, and also the Course of African Philosophy done by Garvey, which a lot of people need to understand. But not just read it. I was there when Honorable Charles L. James commissioned Tony to publish it, because we knew originally it was 42 lessons, but 22 lessons were published in the book. And it's important because out of the people who took the first course, at least 4 of them became president generals after Garvey. That says a lot. When we say rehabilitating, not just the UNIA, the whole race needs to rehabilitate itself. You heard what Dr. Julius Garvey was just saying about spirit. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. They took Lumumba out. They took Malcolm out. They took King out. They took Medgar Evers out. We could go on and on and on. But guess what? Their legacies live on forever. And when you call their names, they will be here. Because you can't kill the spirit. Now, so it's important for y'all to know that we have to study. And it's critical that you pass that on to your children. Anyway, question. My sister, I got my sister right here first. Stand up, sis. I got you.
Good evening, Dr. Garvey. And I want to say congratulations on your book. I have all of your father's books, and I'm going to get your book as well. It's a large question, but if you could sum it up in 1 or 2 points, I just want to know, what was it like growing up with such a great woman and man as parents?
My father died when I was 7 years old, and last time I saw him, I was 5 years old in England. So we kind of grew up in a single parent household. My mother never remarried. So she was both mother and father. And she did an excellent job for myself and my brother. She never remarried, so she always kept my father alive in the house. And he was, an idealized figure in terms of how she presented him to us. And a great man who had a great mission. And so we knew that at an early age growing up. And she instilled in us the fact that, we had to live up to who he was. And we could not really let him down in terms of what we were to become and how we were to function in life. So we always knew that, and the bar was always set high. And I think myself and my brother tried to jump as high as we could due to her.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, I'm gonna be biased, man. I'm going to the sisters first. Come on. I got you, bro. I got you.
So, others can hear behind.
I will repeat it. Let's not come that far unless you're gonna come up here. This is a little difficult. I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I'm greetings, Dr. Garvey. Thank you for being here.
I think if you get up and speak a little louder. Yeah.
I was saying greetings,
Thank you, sweetie.
Dr. Garvey. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm sure that we all appreciate your presence here. So I have many questions, but I'm going to try and ask 2. So to your many points, I'm just going to share something that I heard many, many, many years ago when a very popular TV show was on, but that's besides the point. But there was supposedly an expert on this particular show. And this expert said that the concept of competition and cooperation, he referred to competition being a mental illness. And that
We'll repeat. When she asked the question, I will repeat the question. That's the main thing. She's setting the stage for the question, okay? Thank you.
So if Dr. Garvey, if you can elaborate on that, what are your thoughts on that? And then I'm going to see which other questions I wanted to ask. So this is something that I need to do a little more research on myself. I just came across this information, but I think it's Dr. Richard King. He was saying that there's actually information or research out there that states that the more melanin you have, the more human you are. The less melanin you have, the less human you are. And that connects us to God. So if you can address that, what are your insight or your input on it? Thank you.
Yeah. Competition comes from individualism, and individualism sees self as different from other. So it's what's called dualistic thinking. It's always self and other, but it's always then going to be self versus other. And that's where you get competition of self versus other. So everybody else is an other. Now, you might let somebody else into your inner circle because of their skin color or because they're a woman or whatever, gender, and they become, part of your inner circle. But then that becomes that self, and there's still the other that's out there. And therefore, that is what engenders competition. Now, the other cooperation, comes really from a unitary consciousness. And then you get beyond duality, because we do have two consciousnesses. One is really a consciousness of self, and that is a consciousness of consciousness, not a consciousness just of ego, because that's the dualistic consciousness. So we have an actual consciousness of self and a consciousness of things. Now, it's possible to unify those two consciousnesses, because that's really the source of consciousness. Consciousness is not really divisible in two, because as I mentioned before, consciousness has no border, consciousness has no limits. But it's because of our ignorance and because of our conditioning. Many of you may be able to remember, childhood memories where you were just so in tune with your environment. So it was always oneness. You had no concept of other. I know I can remember that myself. And I can remember when my consciousness became dual when I was about 12 or 13, when I realized that, I could not express who I was in the environment, because the environment was telling me I was somebody different. So I had to create a personality to deal with the environment and to be successful within the environment, as opposed to who I really was. So it took me a long time then to work through what I became and to get back to my original consciousness, which is what you're really born with, this unified consciousness. So, that's a process, but that's where competition comes in, because of the dualistic consciousness and the idea of self as an entity, which is a mind-body entity separated from other mind-body entities. So I think that answered the first question. What was the other part? I don't know a lot about that. I tend to believe that there's one human race. I more tend to believe that there's the two cradle theory of Diop, whereby we developed in the tropical cradle, so to speak, and European developed in the Ice Age period. Unfortunately, some of our ancestors traveled over to Europe and got caught in the Ice Age. And I can see that now we have something called epigenetics and epigenetic science. We can see that the environment can cause different changes in terms of DNA, and turn certain genes on and turn certain genes off. So I tend to look at it from that perspective, as opposed to thinking that because there's a loss of melanin, that somehow dehumanizes them in that sense. But I don't know that there's scientific proof for one or for the other. I think that was the question, right?
Thank you.
Brother.
Yes, Dr. Garvey, I just want to say thank you for being here today as well. You touched on the incident in Memphis. So this may not be the proper forum to respond, but how should we deal with brothers who commit acts like that, as Dr. John Henry Clarke said, who betrayed the African World Revolution? So how do we deal with those brothers internally?
Yeah, I'm going to pretty much take a pass on that. I think certainly we can criticize. It's valid to criticize. I think we have to make sure that we don't have any of those tendencies ourselves. And I think if we're on the spot, we have to make sure that it doesn't happen in terms of our intervention. In terms of it having happened, how do you deal with it? I think I'm going to leave that to the judge and jury, et cetera, and the criminal justice system. Thank you for that question.
So yeah, we will help answer some of those questions too. And I got a straight thing for you, brother. I'm gonna tell you like this. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing taught us that Yurugu,
Yes.
or the system of white supremacy, does not just show up with white folks. In fact, when I came into UNIA, I was like told by the elders that, hey, we have become our own worst enemy. I said, what? How can we? I'm looking for the revolution. How can we be our own worst enemy? They say, guess what? Some of your own people go against you because they act out as if they are Yurugu, or they want to prove to Yurugu. So my answer to you real quickly is, do to Yurugu that attacks you the same way you do to the Yurugu that attacks you over here that don't look like this Yurugu. I ain't gonna tell you what to do, but because I like how Dr. Garvey answered it too. We gotta also be wise. But when ignorance shows up and inhumility or inhumanity, you gotta deal with it, bro. And I just pray nothing ever happens to my children in that nature, because I'm not calling the popo. I'm gonna tell you like that. You assume what might happen, okay? Because this what took place. And by the way, it wasn't just 5 black police officers. I want to straighten that out too. The person that maced him was white. So it's people that acted totally unprofessionally and out of order and committed these crimes. And as he said, we're going to see how they handle it and how they deal with it. But what I am proud of is the sacrifices that we see and the families that rise up from it and what they ask us to do. Remember, he called on his mother. That's serious business, man. And remember, Dr. King was taken out not far from there.
Right.
So we gotta sometimes read between the lines. It's a wake-up call, bro. Okay? And from what I've heard from his brothers, this brother was a very, very peaceful brother who hardly lifted a finger at anybody. So, let's do the research on how those popo were in the past, because I guarantee you they got some serious stuff in their closets.
Definitely.
Thank you, Dr. Garvey. Going back to the book and your decision to publish in a version for our young people, I have a 13-year-old, so I appreciate it. And I wanted to find out, and wondered if you could share, as you're traveling to promote the book, you're also worldwide traveler and a thinker. And where do you see where the conditions of our people are worldwide? Many people think what our ancestors didn't do what they did for some of our folk to act as we do. And yet there are some of our young people who are just doing amazing, amazing things, and we're grateful for them. Where do you see in your travels and in your work those things and those young people that are giving you hope, if that is something that you ascribe to? And what are some of the things that you think that we should be doing to continue to encourage them?
Yeah, I think each generation, so to speak, faces its problems and has to solve its problems for itself. It's a front quote, I think. Are you getting to that? Yeah, I messed it up a little bit, but you know the message. And I think we have a generation now that is facing up to the problems from the Black Lives Matter movement to also to now. And, we've seen it, over in the 90s and the 60s and the 30s and 20s with Marcus Garvey, and in the 50s and 60s, etc., with Malcolm and Martin Luther King, 90s with the Panthers. Now, here we are, another generation, generation is 30 to 40 years or so. So, but, this generation, again, is searching, there's a lot of interest, shall we say, in Africa by the current generation. I think that Chancellor Rapper was just over in Ghana with a Black Star concert and had thousands and thousands and so on. More and more people are migrating or going to Africa. Some are going just simply to visit, but some are going, and certainly, in the Gambia, in Sierra Leone, in Ghana, in Senegal, many of these places. Migrants are going, or immigrants, shall we say, from the diaspora. to live, to do businesses there, etc., etc. So this is something, back in my father's day, of course, the statement was by the bourgeoisie, I didn't lose anything in Africa, so I'm not going back there. But I think many of the young people now understand what they lost in Africa or what is still in Africa. They are for them. And to see again the recolonization of Africa this time, there's Russia, there's China, there's Japan, there's Turkey, the Lebanese, and even now, of course, the Israelis, and they want a relationship with Africa as well. So, if all these people are going to Africa, something must be there, right? Of course, it's the richest country in the world. So the young people are beginning to understand that now because of social media, et cetera, et cetera. I think what we have to do in terms of encouraging them is through an educational system. Unfortunately, we don't regulate the educational system within the country, but we can do those after-school things. We can do those things in our own homes in terms of letting the kids know about Africa and our own history and so on and so forth. And again, in terms of businesses, that there are innumerable opportunities. We just have to open our eyes to them. A lot is going on in Africa. As you know, the African Free Trade Agreement, there are relationships between, the African Union and CARICOM, which is the 15 Caribbean countries. That's going on. We suppose they have a sixth region. That's a little bit in abeyance, but we have to keep pushing for that. And there are many organizations in the diaspora that are looking towards, federal government in Africa and so on. It's slow. And, when I was about 25, I thought the revolution was going to happen. By the time I was 26, and I won't say how old I am, but I'm still waiting for the revolution. But that's the way it is. It's a process. And we just have to be, I won't say be patient, but we have to participate to the best of our ability with the process and not give up.
Thank you.
You got a question.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question of Dr. Garvey, which I know many of you might have to ask as well. But I'm going to ask it because we don't have all evening. And we need to get your books, to have them signed, and no excuses for leaving early. So I'm going to ask the question so we can get this over with. Dr. Garvey, this is about your father's exoneration. That's a question that's on everybody's mind. You've been working on it for quite some time. And there's some people who are using another word, which I would never use. It's about exonerating your father.
No, you mean pardon.
But no, I don't mean pardon. That's the word I
you
would
would use. Yeah.
The pardon, he did nothing for anybody to say, we're going to be pardoning you. He needs to be exonerated for what they did to him. So, but we in the UNIA CLRC 2020, we say, we exonerate Garvey. We're not waiting on those folks to exonerate it. But we know there are reasons behind what Dr. Garvey's doing. And I would like him to explain to you why he continues. Okay.
Sure. And, it's easy enough to just use a parallel. Why would any African person anywhere in the world ask for reparations? Reparations is about reparative justice, because an injustice was done, and you're going to continue to ask for reparative justice as long as you live until it happens. What happened to Marcus Garvey was not an isolated incident. He was targeted. Now, this was 1920. Do you know what they call the year 1919? That was the Red Summer. There were more race riots in America in 1919 than at any other time. They're all over the place, Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit, and so on and so forth. That was white people invading the communities of black people and destroying them. You know, that was 1920 was when Black Wall Street was burned to the ground. You know, there was Rosewood and so on and so forth. So it's all part of the same thing of the terrorism and oppression of Black people. So that's why Marcus Garvey needs to be exonerated as part of reparative justice. Now, as to the term pardon versus exoneration, of course, exoneration is the correct term. We've been at that since at least 1987, you know, with Charles Rangel and so on and so forth, through the courts and through the Congress. But of course, it's politics, and the Republicans are in, and the Democrats are in, the Republicans are in, the Democrats are in. It goes into the House Judiciary Committee and it never comes out. So that's the politics of America. So, you know, it's possible for the president to use his executive powers, so to speak, and he can get up tomorrow morning and write a presidential pardon. Now, all he has to do along with that is say that no crime was committed and it was a miscarriage of justice. So that's what we tried to do with Obama in 2016 at the end of his second term. We felt that he had nothing to lose. He was a Black president, la, 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 la. And so we put that on his desk, but he ignored it. So we didn't try with Trump, now we're back with Biden. And so that's what we're doing. Plus the fact that Yvette Clarke has House Resolution 148 before the Congress, which is for exoneration of Garvey. Now, if I explain myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, that's a hot subject, y'all. We're gonna stick there for a second. We exonerate Garvey. Let me hear y'all. Tell everybody that they should exonerate Garvey. Come on, let me hear you.
Exonerate Garvey.
Hey, listen, people have power, but if you don't speak your power won't be heard. And I was there in '87. That Dr. Julius Garvey, his brother, Charles L. James, Rangel, Dr. Clark, Queen Mother Moore, Tony Martin, Robert Hill, Judith Stein was even there. A whole lot of people were there. But like he said, politics. So we have to understand that those same politics that are not moving properly in justice to exonerate Garvey got a heel on us. Y'all hear what I said? Brother Matula Shakur just got out of prison, almost died in prison, was out helping people detox in New York City. See, everybody hears all about the other stuff. They don't hear about the healing work Matula was doing. Well, I'm happy to tell you that Brother Kokaya, right out of DC, went and spent time with Matula, and they're doing everything they can to heal him from those 30-some-odd years of being in the bowels of America. So when we say we exonerate Garvey in the UNIA, we expect our people to exonerate all of our people, particularly our political prisoners. And Garvey was one of the first political prisoners that J. Edgar Hoover learned how to do the dirt that he did by following Garvey. So all of our political prisoners, when we say exonerate, we serious about that, y'all. And so if we got everybody at least saying they believe the exoneration is real, it will happen. Power is in the people. But too many people are skating the issues because Garvey committed his life for us to get that foot off of us. So it's important for us to be reciprocal and to commit our life to get the exoneration. So that's why we say in the UNI, we exonerate Garvey. But we definitely believe justice has to be done. And I love the way Dr. Garvey tied it to reparations and reparatory justice, because that's what it's all about. That's really what it's all about, y'all. So anyway, I wanted to push that. And if you're in the back and got your hand up, please, can you come down the aisle? So because everybody's going to want to come down either aisle. This one is a little difficult for the mic to get to you, but. No. Please listen. Don't make that assumption. Yeah, I am, but they can come in the mic.
We coming. Here we come. Thank you so much.
I can't give it to you.
I'm coming.
It won't go no further.
I'm still coming.
Don't reach in your hand.
I know,
Don't reach your
I'm trying
hand.
to get through this little narrow place. That's all. I ain't that skinny.
I got
Here
the
we
mic.
Thank
I got
you.
the mic.
All right.
I got the mic.
Okay, thank you. Whew. Oh, you want to hold it?
No, you come up the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys, for messing it all up. So my question is, thank you so much. My daughter, Isis, raise your hand. She's a teen repat. We live in Tanzania.
Oh, wow.
We visited for the new year. We're going back home on Tuesday. Your prayers are needed, family. But my question to you is really to speak to her. Her class is going to be the first graduating class in Dar es Salaam of teen repats from the diaspora. Nice. They get it, but they don't all the way get it. It was important for me to bring her here in front of you today. My only ask is please speak to her. What message do you have for the 15, 16-year-olds to take back to Dar es Salaam? Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences
Go sit in the chairs.
in Dar es Salaam? How have you
Hello,
enjoyed it?
everybody. My name is Isis. I'm 15. As my mom said, we've moved to Tanzania. We're here to visit. My school, Uhuru Community Center, is located in Tanzania, and they teach us a lot of great things. We do a lot of great activities, such as going to the beach, learning different things, going to farms, learning about agriculture, astronomy, and all of those amazing things.
Do you speak Swahili? Do they teach you what language?
Yes, the official language is Kiswahili, and I have learned a little bit myself. My mom even says sometimes that she would think that I'm Tanzanian. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you're enjoying everything?
Yes.
How long have you been there?
We've been there for a year so far.
Okay, good. Wonderful. That's really wonderful to go back and to have a positive experience. And you intend to stay. And where's mom? Your mom, yeah. So that's wonderful. I mean, that's a very nice, positive story of a repat. And I'm sure you had some adjustments to make when you went there in terms of the culture. But it seems as if you made the transition quite easily and quite well. And I think, we have to expect that because it is somewhat of a different culture from the American culture that we're used to, or even from the Caribbean culture, although maybe closer to the Caribbean culture. You're from Trinidad? All right, so then it may not have been as difficult for you in that sense because we tend to be more natural in the Caribbean and not as cityfied, etc. It's something that we all have to do in terms of returning to the continent. Either we return mentally, or we return physically for a visit, or we return physically and make Africa our home. Those are the options that we have, and we should utilize all three options. And I'm very pleased that
Very nice to meet you. Oh, wow. So my question has to do with the unified vision and the unified philosophy. Because we've had the philosophy of Booker T and W. Bush and Malcolm and Martin and Elijah and everybody. And somehow, some way, we as African people, we believe we have to choose. But there's something good and powerful in each of the philosophies. I'm wondering what your take is and how you would speak to us of unifying the vision and the philosophies to incorporate everything that we can do to move forward in exacting our freedom.
You repeat the question?
Are you kidding me?
I got it. No. All right, listen up. She was asking, what can we do to improve upon consolidating ourselves despite ideological differences? That was the meat of her question.
Yeah, and again, it's all about the spirit, and it's all about unity, because our consciousness, our spirit, and our energy is what unites us. So if we can access that, then we understand that we're one people and we're one universe. Now practically, spirit can manifest itself in many different ways, depending on the circumstances, because that's what nature is all about. You have different kinds of plants, you have different kinds of trees, you have different kinds of human beings, you have different fish, you have different birds, etc., etc. So there's diversity physically. There's also a diversity of ways in which you can accomplish X. Okay, so X may be able to be accomplished in 3 different ways. And you may want to accomplish X in one way, she may want to accomplish it another way, and I may want to accomplish it in another way. Now, if we belong to the same organization, or we all want to accomplish X, how are we going to do it? Well, I think we have to be able to listen to each other, and be open to what the other one is saying. So, and not think that because we think this, then we are absolutely right. I think that's one of the things about the Western way of thinking. You name something, and then it has certain characteristics, and it's then absolutely different from the next thing. So again, that it's self and other. It's this and that. It's up and down. It's east and west, and never the twain shall meet. But the point is, there's always a twain, because you can't have up without down. You can't have inside without outside. So your opinion may be simply at this end of my opinion, which is up here, and there's a middle ground. But we have to be, shall we say, wise enough, or understanding enough, or open enough to try to find that middle ground, because each of us may have a way that can achieve X, but my way may be the long way around. Your way may be the most direct way, but you're either going to have to kill somebody to get it done, or you may get killed getting it done, and she may have a third way. So I think it's important for us to be open to what the other one is saying, because the point is that we all want to get to X. So we have more in common than we have that what separates us. So we have to look at what we have in common, and then I think we can accomplish it.
Thank you.
I want to add to that. I got you, sister. I want to add to that because this is very important. It's not about he, me, or she. It's about we. The Pan-African, for many that don't know, the Pan-African, Shake Out the Diop called for us to federate African-wise. Since that time, growing out of Senegal, the Pan-African Federalist Movement has been working to bring together different ideological groups together. The leader of the youth internationally is right here, Brother Sam. So afterwards, we should talk about that, because all they asking us to do is recognize either 1 or 2 or 3 of your ancestors, like Malcolm, Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey. That's all. But if you have not read Diop, and I know his books are here, Shake Out the Diop, he broke it down about why we needed to federate. And if you don't understand the history that took place in the 60s, and I know you're building a library in Ghana, so I know you know where I'm going. Kwame Nkrumah was striving to not just unite Ghana, he wanted to unite the continent. So the formula is there. But like what Dr. Garvey said is so important. You got to let your ego go. You got to let your way, and hear other people's ways. I've been able to work with the Pan-African Federalist Movement, and there's a lot of people in that particular network that will be meeting in December in Mali, right? And they're working from the ground up. We know the African Union is working from the top down, but we need to go bottom up too, because the people need to be a part of what happens, and it needs to be different ideologies. So I said that. And also there is the Nubian Leadership Circle, which grew from the Million Man March, the National Africa. Everybody always say, well, what happened? What happened? There's people still striving to pull positive things together. The Nubian Leadership Circle, which has been endorsed by Minister Farrakhan, and a lot of people, had the Republic of New Africa, the UNIA, the AAPRP, and a whole lot of civic groups and a whole lot of institutions in it. It's not one entity. It's a coalition of entities. So what we call on is taking place, but we are looking for more people to be a part of it. Okay, that's so important. I got this sister here, right here. Then come on up. Come on, sis.
Good evening. It's an honor speaking with you today. I got you. I'm about the youth too. And when you said something was really struck me, when you said you knew who you were until you were 12, and then you had to change. And then it took you a while before you could come back to yourself. And I have a granddaughter that's 13 that's in that right now. So I want to know, what would you tell Giselle right now to how she can hold on to herself? And the second part is, what famous quote of your father's would you be able to give to my 6 grandkids that I'm going to show this tape to?
God and nature first made us what we are, and then out of our own creativity, we make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great law, and let God and the sky be your limit, and let eternity be your measurement. That's the quote. And as far as she's concerned, you know, I think it's a granddaughter or daughter? It's a granddaughter. Well, a lot depends on the parents. I don't know how much influence you have on her, but you have to, you know, really tell her to be true to herself. And that the most important thing is for her to manifest what she truly feels inside her, that she's connected to in terms of her qualities, in terms of her ability, because that's where she's going to find her creativity and her purpose in life, as opposed to then, shall we say, giving into the structure around, either through education or through the parents or through the peer group, etc. Tell us how the most important thing is for her to be herself.
Thank you.
Come on, Shirley, through all the way. And stand over here. No, stand right over there. He says over here, you say over here. Come on, can y'all gotta get together. I don't know. They say one saying over there, one saying over here. Go ahead and ask your question. What's in the chair? That's what you're saying.
There you go.
Y'all tell me one thing.
Greetings, God.
You have a great smile.
Dr. Julius.
Watch out now, you know. Next thing I'm going to be hugging her and what happens later on?
Your mother represents, in my opinion, your mother represents divine womanhood. Could you share with us what it is that we would never be able to know on our own, that you would want us to know, that she would want us to know about her, that you could use to inspire the beautiful daughters who have come here and asked you for knowledge about how we should be conducting ourselves? We have such a powerful example of a divine matriarch and patriarch behind us. You're such a rare human being to come from such a powerful group of people who were legion of ancestors in themselves. Could you give our daughters who are bombarded today with imagery of everything but the divine mother that Amy Garvey was, what is it that you would want? What qualities does she possess that you would want to see manifesting in our daughters today? And if you don't mind, Could you please elaborate on what you think after that Mother Amy Garvey would feel about your updated rendition of her collection, her archives, in honor of your father's legacy? Thank you so much.
I can answer the last part first because, she also updated, if you will, my father's message by publishing Garvey and Garveyism. So she set the tone. And my brother has also written about my dad, so I think I have that possibility as well in terms of the legacy of Marcus Garvey. But, in terms of, women, etc., in the wider sense of the female. Same thing I said about the young lady. In terms of being oneself. And I think that's what my mother was, because she grew up in Jamaica, which was very much a class-oriented society. She was light-skinned, if you will. She came from a family with property, so she was really upper class. And in some sense, my dad came from relatively, shall we say, agricultural Jamaicans, meaning that his father was a mason and his mother, grew vegetables, etc., sold them in the marketplace. So there was a class difference, if you will, between them. They met in New York, but, she immediately understood his mission because she ended up going to work in the organization, work for him because she had legal training. She was very well educated, per se. And she was being true to who she was, despite the class structure and despite the differences that were superficial in terms of a British class system in which she was brought up in, and even despite the educational differences. Because my father, of course, was self-educated. In that, of course, he finished high school and so on, and then again educated himself. He took some courses at Birkbeck College in England. But she was focused on the same thing that he was focused on. So they both had this mission. Of course, he articulated it very well in terms of, I think he had, the personality in terms of the charisma. But I think they had equal intelligence because she was very much self-confident, and she challenged him in terms of ideology, discussions, and so on and so forth. And she more than carried her weight in terms of the Negro world and doing the female page and so on and so forth. And as we have heard in terms of collecting his writings, etc., when he was imprisoned in Atlanta. And later on, also educating so many young people like Tony Martin and Rupert Lewis and others who came to Jamaica to learn from her, as well as carrying on the UNIA itself in Jamaica and elsewhere. So she was multi-talented and very self-willed and very determined and followed her own will. So she understood herself, she understood her mission, she was confident, and she carried it forward. And, I think both my brother and myself, saw that, not seeing it from outside, but imbibing that, shall we say, on a day-to-day basis. And we became who we wanted to be, over time, because of her example and because of my dad's example.
Okay, we're gonna take you gotta come up, you got your hand up, come on up closer, brother. Come on up closer, man, so I can get on. We're gonna take a few more questions, and certainly, I'm gonna ask a question to y'all real quickly. How many of y'all are gonna purchase the book? Come on, show your hand. Good. Okay, I think we got enough here for y'all. Come on over here. Stand over here for me. Robert Moser, people have to come on. You can stay there. Go ahead.
How you doing, Dr. Garvey? Thank you for presenting for us today. I'm curious how you would respond to the growing ADOS.
Hold on. Please, y'all, give my brother some respect.
We respond to the growing FBA and ADOS movements, especially in the context of the reparations struggle. American descendants of slavery and foundational Black Americans, they present the argument that people who are Africans who are descended from the American slave trade should move independently, especially with regard to the reparations struggle.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them, etc. You know, I think they're wrong-footed and wrong-headed. You know, because wherever we have lived in the last 500 years, we've been victims of European imperialism, you know, enslavement, colonialism, etc. So if somebody was born in the Caribbean and living now an American citizen, you know, they're American. And the reparations in America should obviously include them. You know, I want to say something about reparations, you see, and this is where you're being fooled about reparations, you know, like it's being debated in the Congress now and out in California and so on. And there's going to be this idea that, okay, you know, every descendant of an enslaved person is going to get $100,000 or something like that. Now, what do you think that's going to do, you know, for the situation of African Americans? Somebody's going to go out and buy 2 Cadillacs or something like that, and buy some bling, and within 2 weeks it goes back into the hands of the same people who oppressed us. So what you need is systematic changes within the system, such as education. You know, are they really supplying funds to the HBCU? You know, particularly the land grant colleges. I have to know on a plane with somebody from Tennessee, who was in the Senate in Tennessee. We're coming from Morocco, and he was telling me about the land grant situation in Tennessee State. And the state did not put the money up that they were supposed to put up for the Black land grant schools, but they did for the white schools, and even extra. And he was able to go historically back through the records and show for the last 50 years that the state owes them $500 million in terms of the Black schools. Now that's the way you need to focus in terms of reparations. You have to repair the damage that has been systematically done to African people who could not get educated. By giving that $500 million plus whatever you might call it, punitive damages, so that more kids can be educated and they can have the proper equipment, etc., etc. And I think that's what you need to look at in terms of reparations, not the individual that came from Africa, you know, 5 years ago, or came from the Caribbean, you know, 50 years ago in the second generation or something like that. That's silly. Look at the educational system, look at the healthcare system, look at the economic system, look at the banking system. Those are the things that are fundamental in terms of where our problems are and how the system needs to change.
Thank you, sir. A good question. I like that one. And stay clear, man. Beware of those people that who want to divide us. Okay, because I think that's the most important thing to understand. Right. We weren't at the Berlin conference when they divided up our continent. Don't let us divide us. Don't let them divide us up. From North America to South America to this place. We all are Africans. Even if we're on Mars, we're Africans. Thank you, brother.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, Mr. Garvey. I'd like to ask you a question. Could you explain the influence that Marcus Garvey is moving, how Brother Malcolm and his family? The reason why I'm asking this question, we have a lieutenant of Malcolm in the audience, Professor A. Peter Bailey. He's very modest, but he'll tell you that he wasn't in the inner circle. But Sister Betty wanted him to be a pallbearer at the funeral. If you see the video, he's actually, I think, second or third person carrying Brother Malcolm. Mr. Bailey, thank you, sir.
Yeah. No, he held up our elder. I have to speak to that real quickly because that's my elder too. Brother Bailey is one of the main reasons the Pan-African Fellowship movement exists. It was birthed in his home. Brother Bailey, we're speaking about you, Brother Bailey. We were talking about the Pan-African Fellowship movement and how July you, my brother Cliff, in your house came up with the name of the Pan-African Federalist Movement. It really was the African Federalist Movement, and Brother Bailey engineered it towards the Pan-African Federalist Movement. But Brother Bailey not only worked with Malcolm, he actually was the journalist that did things for Brother Malcolm. So before you leave, Brother Bailey, you'll get a chance certainly to hook up with Brother Julius, because I understand the legacy and I know how you roll, bro. And he's coming out with a book. Did you have a question though for Julius?
Yeah, the relationship basically was, both Malcolm's parents belonged to the organization, the UNIA. His mother was from Grenada and came to the U.S. by way of Montreal. And she was a linguist. She learned French back home in Grenada or in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada. And so she was able to translate for the Negro World, because the Negro World editorial was published in French and Spanish as well as in English. So that was the role of Malcolm's mother within the UNIA. And then also his father was a member of the UNIA, very, very active. It is rumored, that he was killed because of his activism as a UNIA member. So that's his genealogy, shall we say, in terms of the Garvey movement. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sengo.
No, you hit it. I mean, it's in the bloodline, y'all. But not only that, the Pan-African, I mentioned earlier about Bassani, Malcolm Shabazz, Malcolm's grandson, was one of the founding members of the Black Star Action Network International in North America before he was murdered. I'll say that again, before he was murdered. Because a lot of people, because of what happened with Betty, and a lot of people don't know the story, the real whole story about Malcolm Shabazz. But he was rapidly becoming more in line with what his grandfather was about. And was traveling the world and actually went to meet with Gaddafi with Cynthia McKinney a little before he got caught up in Mexico with that whole thing. And I like, the reason I say what I'm saying is because I work with Chief Fode, who's in Sierra Leone now, who is the High Commissioner General on the parent body of UNIA RC 2020. He worked with him. They traveled the United States. He was also incarcerated. So, but when they came out of prison after studying, they wanted to connect. And so now, consequently, Bassani is connected to the hip, to the UNIA, and their legacy goes on because we know life to life. But unfortunately, Malcolm's father was murdered, Malcolm was murdered, and his grandson was murdered. That energy, but they were Garveyites. And I'm glad you spoke about Mama, Malcolm's mother. Because a lot of times people don't recognize how powerful she was also. Because they try to write off the powerful Black sisters all the time. But we are going to make sure that our queens, ancestors, as well as present, get their proper due. Because as Garvey said, the world had gone drunk with confusion and discontent because it's out of balance. Why is it out of balance? Because we don't live this arc. Don't just wear it, live it. It doesn't just represent brothers. It's sisters and brothers together. All right, you got a question?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. And while we were talking about that, she was also related to Henry A.J. Langdon, by the way, who was a longtime High Commissioner in UNIA. So her whole family of Malcolms was in the UNIA. But I wanted to ask you a question. This is the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, one that we all know Malcolm X referred to as the farce on Washington. And there was an article written some years ago in the Garvey's Voice newspaper about the March on Washington. And I'll just read a little excerpt from that. And I want to know what you thought about that today. The clip from the article in the Garvey's Voice newspaper, 60 years ago, 1963, when the March on Washington took place, says the Black man has been taught never to dare anything on his own. never to attempt self-sufficiency lest he be struck down by the angry white boss. Most of all, the black man should never dare raise a hand to the white man. This was the unpardonable sin. This lesson has been repeated often and has been learned by many Black Americans. Those who didn't learn have been beaten, lynched, imprisoned, or chased out of the country. The Reverend Martin Luther King got his nonviolence from the white people. I suggest he take it back to them. As a matter of fact, he should spend the rest of his life preaching nonviolence to the white people, but not to us. We have been nonviolent for too long. As a matter of fact, my diagnosis of the ills of the Black community is nonviolence-itis. We have been exposed too long to this lethal germ, nonviolence, and have contracted the dread disease and are at the verge of dying from it. And I'll conclude with this. Concluding this article, the person who wrote the article said, I prescribe the following medicine: a large dose of strong militant leadership, a large dose of dedicated workers and strong organization, a large dose of violent young men with arms and ammunition that know how to use it, a large dose of philosophy that teaches Black men to defend themselves, their family, their friends, their property, and their fellow Black citizens. Now, that was a pretty strong article that somebody wrote 60 years ago. You know who that somebody may have been?
Sounds like an angry young man.
Hey, all right, thanks, man. Thanks. So you're gonna leave it at that, sir? All right. And those historians need to get with us later, and we'll school you if you don't know what just happened. Okay? Come on up. Oh, hey, come on up, sis. Come on. Yeah, I got you, bro. But I got it. I got you, man. I just saw her, and I know I had to call on her.
No,
I'll take her.
Hi, it's an honor. Thank you. The question.
Tell them who you are first.
Oh, my name is Marsha Adebayo.
Not just your individual name, but the things that you're associated with and why. I'll let you know why.
Yeah, I'm with the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, and we're trying to stop the ongoing desecration of an African burial ground in Bethesda, Maryland. And a member of UNIA, absolutely. Absolutely. And a former member of the Black Panther Party. Thank you for your interview. There's an epidemic of Europeans desecrating African burial grounds around the world, in the Caribbean, in Africa, as well as in this country. What would your father think or say about the fact that Europeans have decided that they're going to attack African ancestral burial grounds? Why are they doing this? What is the spiritual underpinning of literally digging up Black bodies and destroying Black life, not only when we're alive, but also when we're dead?
Go ahead, Oh. Yeah. Yeah, Baba Moses, let him answer the question.
I think they've been doing that for about 2,000 years. So nothing has really changed. Certainly they did it with the Native Americans, and they've destroyed all of their burial grounds, etc. And they're doing it to us, and it's simply the disrespect that they have for other human beings, and they dehumanize others because of their own concept of white supremacy, that they're better and they can do anything they want. And nobody can stop them, since they now have all the weaponry, including nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, viral weapons, bacteriological weapons, and so on. So they're lords of the universe, and they feel that they can do anything. And, that's why I spoke a little bit about spirituality to start with. And it's difficult or impossible to change their behavior. In some sense, they have to self-destruct, but we have to maintain our spiritual essence. So what you're doing is extremely important, and you should continue.
Thank you. So, don't go yet, Marsha. You all, and I'm coming, man. We're going to take a couple more questions, but this is very important, Marsha. Come, please. This is very important so that everybody is very clear on what just happened. I'm going to ask her, and I'm going to ask her to give you all a brief synopsis of what's going on, because it's very important. Because if they can disrespect our ancestors who are in graves, they will continue to disrespect our children and you and me. And it is important because some people think, well, when we say Bethesda, that's way up there. It's walking distance from the DC line. But there are also cemeteries in DC and Virginia and all over Maryland that some that have been completely wiped out and not even, people don't even know it was a cemetery. And how do you think our ancestors feel? But Marsha's going to explain to you why and how you can reach out to, if not her, with me and Baba Mosi, and get involved with some of the things going on, because it's been a serious struggle going on in Montgomery County for some time now, because they don't want to recognize the truth of the matter, that we are not going nowhere and we ain't going to stop them from disrespecting our ancestors. Marsha, explain to us.
No, thank you, thank you. I mean, we are in hand-to-hand combat. Let me be real clear with you. If you come to the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, to the cemetery itself, it is surrounded by armed guards at this point. There is major intelligence going on there. They are watching every single thing we do. And so we always ask people not to go there by themselves anymore, because we are in an armed struggle situation in Bethesda. And people think of Bethesda as this, lily white community, where it is lily white now, but it wasn't always lily white. Bethesda was a Black community, and the land was stolen from the Black community. And once they stole the land, then they started erasing the history. So this is all about genocide. This is about genocide, and we have to be so clear about this. There was massive slavery, murder, sabotage, rape, particularly of young girls on River Road in Bethesda. It was one of the major areas where what they called the breeding industry took place. 60% of those little Black girls died in childbirth. And they started renting out little Black girls at 5 years old and sending them to sex parties. This is between mid-1700s and 1865. And the bodies that they're destroying in the cemetery are the bodies of those children, because they want to make sure that there is no criminal evidence of what they did to those little girls. And so we are fighting day and night now to maintain the history, the culture, and to make sure that we tell this story, because there is a massive cover-up going on right now, and we are not going to permit it. We're going to fight. These people have never seen a fight like we are taking to them at this point, and we have just begun to fight. They haven't seen nothing yet. So we're asking all of you to please support us, because we are not going to go down like this. And we're not going to allow our history to be destroyed. And so anyway, thank you so much for this opportunity. But let me just say one thing. UNIA is at the center of this fight. So if you want to get in touch with us, get in touch with UNIA, because we are Garveyites. We are fighting for our people, and we will not be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Marsha. And not only Sister Marsha, but Reverend Adebayo, who is the Reverend of the Moses Church that's still up there, is also with us. And so we're with them 100%. And we encourage everybody here to get more information on that if you don't know. A lot of media all over the place have been on Call Nelson. We've done a lot of stuff, but we need Black folks to understand. You might have had some cousins that were buried in that cemetery. That's a fact. So you need to really check it. Now, I'm going to take one more question because it's getting late. Come on, bro.
He's right in front of the camera.
Dr. Garvey, it's first and foremost, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. And I heard about you. I actually heard your interview with Garland Nixon on News Views, and that's how I heard about this book signing, and that prompted me to really come here. And really, I've learned a whole lot, and really meeting a son of a very well-known figure as victorious as Dr. Marcus Garvey. It's a pleasure to be here. My question is with regards to what's been happening with the uprising in Mali as of now, in Mali and Burkina Faso, with the whole, locals, demanding the French to, leave their country. So for years, the French have had strong, heavy influence in West Africa, partly North Africa, across the world, like the Brits. And with that, they also had blood on their hands. Blood, like millions of people, including our African brothers and sisters. And now with the locals in Mali and Burkina Faso demanding the French to leave, do you believe that there is now that these locals, that these people are now coming to their senses? Do you think that Black self-determination is rising a little bit? Do you think it's still? Do you think it's back? Do you think it's reborn? What is your opinion on that? And how would your father react to what's been happening if he was still alive?
Yeah, I think that what's happening in Mali and Burkina Faso is very significant. They have essentially kicked the French out of those two countries. Francophone Africa is about 15 countries or so that are still, essentially colonized by Africa, by France, because France controls their money, their currency is printed in France, and France takes about $500 billion out of Africa every year, and controls all of their resources. The governments have to give contracts to French companies, and any riches that are found in the Francophone countries belong first to France in terms of the exploitation of those riches and so on and so forth. So France has been a parasite. And one of the previous French presidents, Chirac, said that without Africa, France would be a third-rate power. And of course, it's not a great power. It's been raping Haiti, which has to pay reparations to France. And it's been raping the African continent for a long time, but it's changing. We had a meeting with Paul Sankara, who is Thomas Sankara's brother, a few days ago at Howard University, telling us of the changes and so on that are taking place in Burkina Faso. And that's real. And, they're looking for different partners, certainly in terms of Russia, in terms of China, because of the way in which the French have disadvantaged them over time. But it's also important to know that the American government is also in partnership with the French. For example, the 49 or so African heads of states that were invited over recently for the summit with Biden, those who were left out were those in the Francophone area that were dismissing France. So you can see who the friend of France is. It's the United States. And of course, the United States is more friendly with France than it is with Africa. Otherwise, they would have invited those three African countries as well. So, it's that whole colonialism, near-colonialism that Kwame Nkrumah talked about, of the French, the Americans, and of course the British. So the change is real, and it's coming from the young people, and it's very, very positive.
Yeah. Okay. Good, Shaka. Yeah. For all you all that could not hear the whole presentation, you can check it out on Facebook. Okay. And is it going to be anywhere else? We're going to put it up anywhere else or YouTube, because some people, everybody ain't on Facebook. We're going to put it on YouTube. So it's going to be put up. So make sure you leave your email with us and name, or get my business card and stay in touch, because we want to make sure that you get to hear everything and spread the word. Thanks, Brother Shaka. By the way, Shaka Santura, come here. I know, come here, come. You got to do it, bro. You've been working too hard, bro. and I want people to know that there's another powerful Garveyite, y'all, that I've known for a long time. He currently resides in LA, but thanks to him, Dr. Garvey did the West Coast, right? And you're doing the East Coast, right? Right, Doc? And he lives in LA, but y'all see he's here. But I want him to tell you a little bit about some of the work he's doing. Shaka, tell me a little bit about your website. Come on, you gotta give it up. We're closing out. Yeah, they want you to pay the film.
This won't take long. Greetings, everybody. I'm Shaka Satori. I'm actually a community activist. I've been a community activist in LA for over 30 years. Born and raised in Philly. So yes, I'm an Eagles fan. Anyway, I wasn't never really into filmmaking. I got into filmmaking as an activist, as an expression of activism, because I think that each one teach one might have worked back in the 50s and 60s. But I think with today's technology, it's each one teach a million. And so that's the route I'm taking. The first documentary that my production company made completely is called Whirlwind, the Marcus Garvey story. And you can go to www.legacynetwork.tv and see it for free. And if you have any kids or any classrooms or anything like that, show it to them. It's a good baseline when it comes to
I highly recommended it. It's not very long, but it's
Yes, 7
complete.
minutes.
It's very deep. So it's
One more
really
time
good for the
with the
kids
name?
because
Sorry?
it's not very long.
It's www.legacynetwork.tv. Okay, thank you guys.
Yeah, and thank you, bro. And brothers and sisters, we are at the close of the program, but where is she? So y'all listen up. I don't think Sankofa closes, but certainly purchase some books, get some food, purchase Dr. Garvey's, Julius Garvey's book, take a couple of them home, but listen to what's going on here. Y'all know what Sankofa means? No, y'all know what Sankofa means. Are y'all Sankofa? Huh? Tell them about Sankofa books.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Bari Ghani. My name is Michaela. I'm the store manager of Sankofa. I have the great honor of being so. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for coming here tonight. Thank you to ADACI and to the UNIA for being supportive of Sankofa for many, many, many years. We wouldn't be here without the support of the community, and we ask that you continue to do so. This is actually our 25th year anniversary.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
So you started when you were 5. There you go.
And this is actually the 30th year anniversary of the movie Sankofa. So it's a very special year. I hope you guys continue to celebrate with us throughout the year. Please go online to sankofa.com and look at the events we have coming up. Please continue to support us as we will continue to support you all. And I want to give a very special thank you to Dr. Garvey for being here tonight. And I hope everyone gets home safely. But like Baba Sago said, please stick around, peruse the books, get some, nice smoothies, get some drinks, get some nice food. And I hope everyone has a great and safe evening.
Let's hear it for Sankofa, y'all. When the folks in San Diego and the folks in LA and the folks in San Francisco, they hit us up, man, our UNIA people. They were like, Dr. Garvey came and he just lifted up. I said, yeah, I know Dr. Garvey's gonna get to the East Coast because he lives on the East Coast. But I know he's gonna get in. But when we had an opportunity to get him here, we knew we wanted to get him here in Sankofa. We felt this was the spot. But guess what? Dr. Garvey has been at Howard University Law School with a program he just mentioned when he was on a panel with different people. He was at Howard University the Founders Library that same night. A lot of students, because his mission is to make sure students get this information. Okay? And I know many of you all that have children, make sure your children get to read this book. And if they don't like to read, maybe you need to read it to them. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Or record it and let them listen to it. I'm serious, by any means necessary. So I want to thank Sankofa and I want to thank ADACI. Come, 'cause I want to thank the African, Yuri, come, Yuri. I want to thank them because if it were not for the African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration Institute, which is also based here in Sankofa, right? Y'all got a little office here, right? So it is all about building in the community. So I want to give ADACI the closing words, and then they're going to do the signings, and we're going to get because Dr. Garvey, he's on the move, y'all. He'll be in Delaware, he'll be in Philadelphia, he'll be in New York. Y'all ask that afterwards. I'll deal with that afterwards. Okay? Get your email. I'll email you the info because he's gonna be in Philly, a couple of places, a school, Lincoln University and Imhotep, and he's gonna also be in New York soon. So anyway, I'm gonna let the sisters close it out.
So I'd like to close it out by saying, and you can find this on our website, we, the survivors of the African Holocaust, the MIAFA, stand firmly on the shoulders of our ancestors. And today we have heard directly from a descendant of one of our some of our most venerated ancestors. We are so grateful for you, Dr. Garvey. Thank you for gracing us today with your wisdom and your presence. And thank you all. You all are equally wonderful, and we appreciate you. And again, we appreciate your support. Please continue to stay well in these times. Stay educated, stay lifted, and know that we are family and we love you. Take care.
Okay. Just as the sisters have said, the UNIA ACLRC 2020, and especially the Western Banneker Jackson Bay Division 330 of RC 2020, we would like to thank you all for coming here today. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you meeting Dr. Garvey, and I do hope that you're all ready to bring up your books so that we can have them signed. Oh, okay. Okay, all right. We're setting up now, so don't rush it. But we're waiting. All right. So thank you very much, all. One God, one aim, one destiny.
Be patient, everybody. We're gonna get that done. All right.
Yeah, hold them back, please. Hold them back. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. If you don't mind. Sam. I got it. No problem.
Can we give a big shout out for the Black Love Summit coming up next weekend? Black Love Summit. Black Love Summit.
Y'all, please, no. No, I knew that was gonna happen. Y'all back up, please. Everybody can't do that.